Conjuring is very, very accurate. When you give recognition, when you go into a place where haunting phenomena is going on, and you give it recognition, you give it energy, and then you can do whatever it wants.
The Conjuring universe is famous for its horror movies and storyline. Every time you watch one of their movies, you try to forget about horror scenes by reminding yourself they were just a piece of fiction work. But this time, it's different. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, is based on the real-life trial of Arnie Cheyenne Johnson. Arnie was convicted of murdering his landlord and claimed that he was possessed by a demon. This movie has many scenes you might feel are unreal. But did they happen the same way in reality, or were they just portrayed for entertainment?
This story is based on true events. That's even more captivating. So that's what's interesting about the Conjuring series, is that it's based on true events.
The murder scene. In the new Conjuring installment, Arnie is found covered in blood and walking aimlessly down the road by police after the fatal incident with his landlord. That story beat is true, but the trippy, haunting, and visceral murder sequence in the movie is a fabrication because the real Johnson blacked out and has no memory of it.
And Arnie disappeared for a few minutes. When he came back, he was somebody entirely different.
What? Now when
He doesn't recognize or know anything about what happened from that point on.
First curse claim. In a flashback during the fictional Warrens' investigation, they find out David's first encounter with the supernatural occurred in a bedroom where the boy was taking a rest on a waterbed. In real life, there was no flotational fright, but after the Glatzells moved into a rental property, Chaves says David reported having a traumatic encounter in a room with an unexplained burn stain through his mattress and onto the floor below. Emerald Gordon Wolf was the stunt double. Chaves said, "That's all in camera and it's not sped up at all. We did have CG in that we did face replacement, but there is no wire work. That's all her just doing it. The plan was she was gonna do this slow rise up, but then I asked Emerald to do that any different, and she did it, and you could just hear the crew trying to keep their lunch in because it was just so unnerving." Lawyer at Warren's home. Arnie's defense attorney in the film is unsurprisingly reluctant about using demonic possession as a legal strategy. To help convince her, the Warrens invite her to come over for dinner and see Annabelle. Chaves confirms that that was a nod to the bigger Conjuring universe and not exactly what happened. Innocent by reason of the supernatural was definitely a big, bold claim. Any lawyer who takes that to a court, they're putting their career on the line. They had to be presented with some kind of evidence. Ed Warren's heart attack. In the aftermath of the movie's opening exorcism, Ed has a medical issue and is rushed to the hospital. Chaves reports the real demonologist actually had multiple heart attacks in the 1980s, including a debilitating one that put him in a wheelchair for months. David Glatzell's actual exorcism. Before filming the exorcism scene, Chaves had the cast listen to the recording of David Glatzell's actual exorcism so they could capture the reality of it. Chaves said, "As much as we want to make this big studio, terrifying horror movie, we also want to capture what was real about it. This was real, and this family went through this, and this boy went through this. And I think the temperature in the room just dropped when it played."
Remember, you are not strong, you're weak. You're weak. Ryan, Jesus loves this boy.
Exorcism numbered list. Before she died in 2019, Lorraine Warren talked to Vera about David Glatzell's exorcism, and she explained how he created a numbered list of the names of the particular demons possessing him. Arnie's invitation for demon. Yes, the then boyfriend of Debbie Glatzell, Arnie Johnson, was present for at least one of David's exorcisms, and witnesses say he did invite the demon into his body. And yes, these two facts would form the basis of Johnson's defense when he was charged with murder some weeks later.
But this kid, at 18 years old at the time, would stay awake all night long and then go to work the next morning. But he made a fatal mistake. One night he said, and he screamed at these devils, "Take me on. Leave my little buddy alone."
Murders connections of Jessica and Katie. The additional murders of characters Jessica Louise Strong and Katie Lincoln as part of some broader curse involving Johnson's case aren't based in fact. While plenty of young women went missing in Connecticut during that time period, of course, none of them were ever connected to Johnson's case. The trial of Arnie Johnson. Johnson's defense attorney wanted to go forward with the argument that Johnson could not be found guilty by reason of possession, but the judge assigned to the case refused to hear the argument by saying, "I'm not going to allow the defense of demon possession, period."
I mean, everybody was waiting for this lawyer, Manella, and ourselves, and all the investigators and the priests to step into that courtroom and to bring our evidence. The very first morning, the judge said, "No way. We're not allowing the devil made me do it case in this courtroom," which was wrong because the devil does exist. Many devils exist.
The trial went forward with a bigger focus on the circumstances of the stabbing rather than any demonic forces. Johnson was ultimately convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to the maximum of 10 to 20 years. With good behavior, Johnson was released in just over 4. Michael Chaves considers this sequel to be the darkest Conjuring movie yet, solely because it's told from the perspective of a murderer.
You know, this is a story with a real victim, and this is a story that really is, is very dark. It's without a doubt, it's their darkest case.
He revealed that he's also wrestled with believing the story literally. He said, "I think that up to this point, just being a fan of it, the question of whether I believed in it wasn't really brought to the forefront. So it totally depends on you, whether you believe the story was real or not." If you found this video interesting, feel free to like this video and subscribe to our channel.
What does that do to the whole system
Yes.
of law if a person can walk in and say, "The devil made me do it"?